Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Shop with Russ. Good to see you out there this afternoon. Already got several people. There was 4 people waiting before the show, about 30 minutes before the show started, so I really appreciate that. But Dave Hart's out there, Art Day. Trying to go back up and see who else is already out there. I know Brenda G, most of my panel's out there in the chat, but good to have you out there and good to have everybody out there that's watching or going to watch this. We're going to get into a subject tonight that I have absolutely, I was telling them, no clue as to what the heck they're talking about. They're saying it's a lot like CNC and some of the aspects. It uses G code and stuff like that, which I understand, but yeah, extruding and all that other kind of stuff. I'm gonna learn just as much as probably some of y'all will out there in the chat and watching this. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm thinking about getting a 3D printer myself just for the heck of it. And so I'll talk about that in just a second. Right this second, let me not forget. And my wonderful sponsors are Devobel Technologies for web design, development, and hosting. Visit devobel.com. FastCap, innovative products for the professional woodworker. Go to fastcap.com. Rockler, 60 years in woodworking. Create with confidence. Visit rockler.com. Bearwood Supply Company, your best choice for hard-to-find woodworking supplies. Go to bearwood.com. Klingspor, the sanding specialist, woodworkingshop.com, and Seiko, the scroll saw specialist, seiko.com. And before I get into a couple of other things I wanted to mention, Michelle Marcou's out there in the chat now. Good to see you. Donald's mother was rushed to the hospital this afternoon. They think she might have had a stroke. And so he can't be on tonight. And just for those of you who do, say a little prayer for his mother and him, especially if he has to travel to go see her tonight. You know, he might be on the road for quite some time. I'm not sure where she lives compared to him, but I know he has to travel to go see her. So if you would keep her in your prayer. And the other thing I want to say is I'm not going to call out any names or embarrass anybody or, you know, anything like that, but several people, and I mean several people, and I was not expecting this. I didn't ask for it, and I was just overwhelmed. Still, I'm just overwhelmed about it. But PayPal'd me money for my birthday, and wow, I'm totally shocked. Thank you very much. And y'all know who you are. I'm not calling anybody out, or like I said, I don't want to embarrass anybody or make anybody feel bad in any way, but those of you who did that, I truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you so very, very much. It just totally caught me off guard, and I wasn't expecting that, but I really do appreciate that.
Did your Lowe's T-shirt get there yet?
No, it hadn't got there yet.
Okay, well, sorry.
I need something. If it's not supposed to rain tomorrow, it didn't rain today, and it's not supposed to rain tomorrow. I need something to start the fire in the backyard, so I hope it gets here. Anyway, Inspired Woodworks has joined us out there in the chat, so that's very, very good. I appreciate all y'all. And we got a new guy on the panel, and he's going to join us tonight to talk about the 3D printing. And I have discovered that he knows quite a bit about 3D printing as we talked before the show actually started. So what I'm going to do is we'll go down the panel and let everybody introduce themselves. And then Dickson will let you go last and introduce yourself. And so let's start on my right. And the first person on my right is Paul. Well, don't come up with that. I never get called first, so I'm not ready because you've been called first before.
I was totally unprepared. Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Corliss from Paul's Messy Workshop. And for the first time in Hangout history, we are in the Messy Workshop. And I spent a great part of this afternoon cleaning it up so that I wouldn't be too embarrassed, but it's still in pretty bad shape. But you can find me on YouTube at Paul's Messy Workshop, on Instagram at Paul's Messy Workshop, and even though it's not very good, it's paulsmessyworkshop.com. And thanks for having me on here, Russ.
You are welcome, my friend. Next is Al. Al Forte.
Okay, there. It
You
looked
weren't
like,
ready either, were you, Al?
I don't know how to use the mute button. I just leave it on. I just let it run. Hey, I'm Al Forte, Odessa Woodworking and Maker Shop on YouTube, Kilroy79763 on Twitch. You can look for me as Kilroy79763 all over the place. And I am not in my shop. I'm in my office. But over there, I've got a monitor that's showing my printer printing in the shop. It's a lot cooler that way. I'm not as lucky as Paul to have air conditioning in his shop, but anyway, thanks for having me, and I hope everyone enjoys it and learns something. I know I will learn something. Dickson is definitely a master at 3D printing. But anyway, thank you very much, and
Cool. Real quick, Inspired Woodworks has joined us. I think I said Michelle Marcoux. Robert Crow has joined us, and Buster Stott from Scroll Saw Studio. Cool. So next is John Schaffner.
Good evening, everyone. This is John from Central New York. You can find me on Facebook, and I have a small YouTube presence under my name. And I know absolutely nothing about 3D printing, so I'm going to hang this one out, and it's going to prove to be interesting, folks. Hang on to your seats.
It definitely is. Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Dawson. You can find me on Facebook, where I make a lot of inappropriate comments and posts, especially birthday cards. I really like birthday wishes.
Don't get me started on that one. That post you posted for me for my birthday, I about fell out of my chair laughing so hard. Yeah, my wife read it and she was laughing too. So,
but at any rate, I show up mostly for spite, and that's the best I can do.
No problem. Jim.
Jim Beshears, Driveway Workshop, and got my man crafting mug, and I'm ready to go. We should have a good time with this, and hopefully we can all learn some stuff and maybe have some more of these 3D shows on the Scroll channel here.
oh, the Scroll channel.
You don't even know where the hell you're at, do you? I brought my a flag mug tonight. I think my man crafting mug was dirty. I've got 2 or 3 of them actually, but I think all 3 of them were dirty. So anyway, and then Brenda.
Thanks, Russ. I'm Brenda G. Brenda G's Designs. You'll find me all over the internet as Brenda G's Designs. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Patreon, Etsy, every place. It's Brenda G's Designs.
Great to have you. And then last but not least, his name is Dickson Hoffman. How are you doing?
Okay. Hi, I'm Dickson Hoffman from hoffmansignsandDecals.com/3D printing. Thanks for having me on, Russ.
You're welcome. More than welcome. So, yeah, so I don't even know where to begin. Who wants to kind of like start the ball rolling? Paul, Al, or Jim? I mean, they were originally the 3 that was going to be on here. So one of y'all want to start the ball rolling talking about it? Or
Well, I don't mind starting. I'm just a newbie to this. And in fact, Al and I are kind of on the same level, I think. And we help each other a lot. We help each other a lot with different things. I've got a Creality CR10S. It's pretty much an entry-level machine that'll do about anything that I do right now. And I found out that 3D printing is a rabbit hole in itself, but not nearly as bad as a lot of other tools I have in the shop. The biggest problem I've had with 3D printing is after I got to 3D printing, I found out that I had to learn software to make it work. And That's where I'm at right now. I print simple stuff. I printed things like painter's triangles. I printed a little glasses box and that's stuff. Just little things that this is on the file that you get with your printer. In fact, that's the first thing you print. But I printed a few things. My son has a motorcycle and he wanted a few things printed for that. So it's right now it's kind of a learning experience, and I get a lot of my plans from Thingiverse. And Thingiverse is a gold mine of design. So if anybody wants to go next, that's
just real quick. Thingiverse is on a website, and you go there, and people have already designed stuff and uploaded it, and they sharing it with you. Is that what Thingiverse is?
Yep. And
yes.
One of the things that I designed and printed was I have a rigid oscillating spindle sander, and I designed and printed a little wrench that fits over the knob that holds the sanding belt part on, because the knob that holds that on over time gets really tight. So I 3D printed a little wrench to loosen it up.
Pretty cool. Pretty doggone cool. Frank Condon's out in the chat, and so is Portal Woodworks. He's out there. Get more people joining every minute. Hi, Frank. How are you doing? Okay, so I'm thinking about getting a 3D printer. We talked about that earlier. We'll go into it a little bit more. Let's just go down the list, and because Dickson is on the end, and Al, you want to?
Sure. I've been totally entry level. I've started with the little benchies that I've got a couple of them. And a benchy is something that Jim wanted me to print. He kept asking me, "Did you do a benchy? Did you do a benchy?" So I started doing benchies, which are little tugboats, and they stress or they test, how well something's going to print. And I got a fleet of them. Remember I brought them back up one time as bass boats for Shane Cole.
Yeah, I remember that. One
of the first things that, besides those that I printed, is a parts cooling fang. I get a fan that goes up here, and but the point is that it's printed with the 3D printer. So the 3D printer could make another 3D printer. In fact, Mr. Hoffman has built 3D printers. For I wouldn't say for a living, but that's not right anyway. For extra money and stuff, until the bottom dropped out because they're getting so inexpensive. I've been cutting up lately. I've been working on making these little trophies for a cancer benefit, and I've got them all messed up. I mean, the lettering in here, I wanted to make raised lettering so that I could paint it better and stuff. So what I did is I made these in Fusion, which as Dickson said, Fusion's got a really big learning curve. The actual Band-Aids, and with the raised lettering. So what I'm going to do now, and I don't know if you can see that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind this down and then put these in. And this one's a bad one. This one's a totally bad one. I've made the Enterprise, made various different things. Right now, what's on my printer, and let me share my screen real quick. I'll do it really, really fast. Is more. Oh wait, wrong one, right?
Nope, that's we can see it.
Yeah, is more Band-Aids. I'm basically printing out the Band-Aids so that I can fix the little trophies, that I've been making, and I've got several of them, and it's pretty decent. You take the trophies and you can use primer to seal the little lines. You can sand them down, you can Dremel them and stuff, and like I said, I've been making several of them because I've been trying to do different things with them. They are hard. Okay. They're not really fragile. I'm sure if I tried to break it, I could break it. In fact, that right there is loose, but that's probably because of the way that it got designed. But I've just been piddling around. The next thing I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna go back over there to the to where I'm sharing there. If you notice the black thing that's basically over the Band-Aid, that's the thing I'm printing right now, because I've already printed it once and it broke because it wasn't very, very good. So it basically will be blowing air down on it. But this one has been really, really good. Really, really good. I did the whirligig. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Russ, are they going to vote on the winner for the whirligig, or is it going to be an independent panel? Or I did that whirligig. Huh?
You started talking, so you didn't give me a chance to say. We're going to judge them, and I'm shooting toward the 18th, the show of the 18th of July to announce the winners. Yeah, the top 3 are going to be judged, and then the others will just random pick. So, yes, we're going to be doing that. I've already chosen 4 judges, including myself. So there's 4 of us, and we're looking at the videos and stuff now. The reason I'm saying the 18th for that, now let me go ahead and, I was going to say that in the beginning, and I forgot to write it down, but Whirligig Wars will be, we're shooting toward the 18th of July to do the judging for that, since he brought it up. And I've got people looking at videos right now. We're going to come together. The reason I'm doing it on the 18th and not next week, which is why the 11th, is I may not be here the 11th. We had already had some pre-plans on the 11th. I don't know that we're doing that because we've got my wife's cousin is still in the hospital and not doing good at all. So we may postpone those plans to a later time. So we'll just wait and see. So just giving y'all fair warning, we may not have a show on the 11th. I'll announce it sometime this week when we get further along, you know, Wednesday or Thursday, so I'll have a better idea. But anyway, so I'm pushing toward the 18th. The show, Let's Talk Shop with Russ, will be the actual saying who's the top 3 winners. That will give me enough time to contact them so that they can pick their prizes and send the information back to me and get all that taken care of, so that I'll have time to line it up. And then the 18th, everybody, whoever is not picked for 1st, 2nd, 3rd place, then they will get put in the random drawing. And if their name's drawn, they will win something. So
I believe you meant August, not July.
Huh? I
believe you meant August. There you go.
August 11th and August 18th. I'm sorry.
Well,
yeah, August.
The reason I brought up the whirligig is because, for the most part, you know, everybody was doing it with wood, and I saw it on Thingiverse. You know, we talked about Thingiverse being the place to go get your STL file. They had something there that had a planetary sun gear. In other words, 3 gears with a gear in the center that turned, and I thought, this is great. I mean, it was set up exactly to do what it was supposed to do. It's definitely a rabbit hole.
Yeah. No, when Paul said that, and you said that. When you mean by rabbit hole, now it's not like turning, for instance. You know, turning when you buy your lathe, and if you don't, and if you just buy a lathe, you're not going to turn. You're going to end up having to have a chuck. You're going to have lathe tools. You're going to end up, before you know it, you spent $500 or $600 on equipment just to be able to turn something. So you keep saying a rabbit hole. It's not a rabbit hole as far as you need to continue to buy stuff, is it? Well, I know you're going to need filament.
I think Dickson with 4 printers sitting over there. I think that would qualify as a rabbit hole.
Well, hold on a minute, Russ. Russ, you're right. It's not that kind of rabbit hole. It's all you'll have to do is buy filament, but it starts getting very addictive, where all of a sudden you're going to start shifting. You might not have time for the woodworking and all this other stuff you're doing, because it gets very addictive.
Well, not only that, but for a little bit, I can make a modification to mine to make it feed with 2 filaments and do multicolored things, or I can put a better extruder on it and even get better prints.
Okay, you can upgrade. You can definitely upgrade the machine. In other words,
or I can buy another machine and print 2 things at once. You know,
Yeah.
I've already got another head sitting here, and
The quality of the machines nowadays, though, Russ, you can you buy the one you were mentioning, and it's going to work. It's going to work. It'd be a fluke if it didn't. It's going to work right out of the box.
Okay. Steve Good has joined us out there in the chat. Good to see you, Steve Good. And I know Steve Good knows a little bit about 3D printing, and he's got one. Steve, would you like to join the panel tonight? I'd love to have you on here. If you want to join us, just let me know over there in the chat, and I'll send you the link. But I'll send you the link through. You'll have to get on Facebook, and I'll send it through you over there. But just let me know. So I see what you're saying. In other words, I can just buy filament in the beginning, but as you progress, you might want to upgrade your machine.
Right. You don't have to upgrade it, but it's like modding. You can take anything and modify it. You can take your lathe and, I'm going to start adding features. It's
right.
Like, yeah. But the quality is so good now with these CR10s and and other printers too, that you don't have to modify it unless you want to do it.
Yeah. Even if you do, though, there's really not a lot of things to modify on it. I mean, you could put better, like a jeweled type nozzle on it, and
right.
Maybe better stepper motors. I don't even know why you do that, but or the filament drive. There's just not a lot of stuff to do to these things once they come out of the box.
Right.
So the big expense is filament, though. So
you've got the floor right now, Jim. So go ahead and.
I went ahead.
Okay. I've got a CR10 back here in the corner, and I've had it for probably 6 months now, 7 months. And I actually bought it with an anniversary present from work. They gave me some money for going over 20 years. So I needed some stuff done for work like Dickson does. So I actually needed to make some things so that we could sell an ID system to a customer and show them, how easy it is to do personnel management and stuff on machines. And that's why I bought it. So I printed, developed something to put an RFID card in, and that's kind of how I got started. But man, I'll tell you, it was rough. I had failure after failure on the prints just because of things like I didn't have the bed leveled right. I couldn't get it to stick until we came up with the Aquanet. It's the best friend of.
My mom used that stuff religiously on her hair.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean
that it's still out there.
Yeah, my wife gets it for me at the dollar store, so I mean, it's still there. But,
go ahead.
I mean, anymore they come with heated beds. They're really solid machines. So it's kind of fun to see how they've evolved over time, because I've kind of had my eye on them for a couple of years, and then Joseph Prusa makes his own Dixons. He makes them, and I saw a video once in his shop, and he's got like 100 of these things on shelves, just like one after another, making more Prusas. So that's and that's a decent machine too. But I mean, here you have all these machines building copies of themselves. So it's a neat little hobby to get into, and I'm starting to make things for the shop. Like Paul said, he made the little painter's triangles, and you can make clamping right angles with it, so you can put two pieces of wood together at an angle like this and keep them square while the glue up goes on. There's a lot of stuff you can do.
That's a good idea.
That's one of the other big reasons why I got it, because I wanted to start doing that. You could make your own little Craig system or whatever you want out of them, and
I see what
do
you're
whatever
saying.
you want.
That'd be a good idea. Yeah. Make 90s or putting the boxes together, that making sure the corners are all square.
Yeah, you can make little clamps. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. It's
Sure.
just I mean, it's how's your imagination,
Right.
Make whatever you can think.
Mr. Steve Good has joined us. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, Russ. I'm doing great. How's everybody?
Yeah, you better bring your mic down because we can't hear you.
Let's try again. How about that?
Now we can hear you.
Hey, Steve.
How is everybody tonight?
Hello,
Hey,
Steve.
how are you?
How are you doing, my friend?
Trying to get through this funeral this week. Kind of been a rough week, but I'm doing all right.
Yeah. If Steve lost a very close friend he's known for years and years and years, so very close.
Missing.
Yep. Well, I understand. Trust me. I lost a high school. We went to high school together. Then when we left high school, we joined went through firefighting school together. We both went to work for Polk County Fire Department together. So we'd been together our whole entire lives, and he passed away about 2 years ago from throat cancer. So,
oh man,
wow,
so, young man too. Is my exact age. I think his birthday was in September, and mine's in August. So right together. So, but good to see you. So, I think you actually have a 3D printer, don't you?
I've got a couple of them. I started out with, and I'll recommend this, even though it's getting old now. This is the Select Mini. This was the first one that I purchased, and it's a small build platform, but it did a great job. And then when I needed a little bigger platform, I went with this one over here. This is actually a QIDI, and it's a flash forged replica out of China. And I'll say one thing about this. I needed a part. A shaft broke in it several days after I bought it, actually. And I got a hold of the Chinese company that manufactured it to order the part, thinking that I'd probably be down for 6 months, on a lucky day. They shipped me that part. I had it at my front door in 3 days from China.
Wow.
That was impressive.
Yeah.
And then I've talked to them a half a dozen times since then, and they are one of the most responsive companies I've ever worked with. They're amazing.
Wow.
The printer's good. It's not great. It's good. But it does what I want. Most of what I make, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, I make these little jigs for the jet scroll saw. I've sold a ton of, as a matter of fact, this little jig right here paid for the Select Mini about 5 times over. So it was a very valuable product to me. Then so many people know about the knobs on the DeWalt scroll saw and all those knobs.
Yeah.
Here's one that I did on a 3D printer that turned out really good. And I didn't sell these because I got a friend down in Atlanta that sells the aluminum ones, and I didn't want to step on his toes. But these have worked out pretty good. And then I do what everybody else does. I go to Thingiverse and download things. Here's a little vase that turned out pretty neat.
I like that.
Yeah. But I've also printed out on my back swing. I've got a cup holder that I printed on my swing. I've got a iPhone holder that holds the iPhone on the rail on the yard swing, so I can sit and watch videos while I'm outside watching the dog. So I've printed literally hundreds of things.
Cool. I'm looking at buying, and I was telling them before, the Ender 3, I believe it is.
That's a nice machine.
Yeah, right now they have it at Gear's Best. For those of you out there who are interested, is you can get it for $179. They've got it on sale for $189, and then if you'll sign up for their newsletter, they'll send you a $10 off coupon, and you can use it. So it'll bring it down to $179. So I'm thinking about pulling the plug, because like I was telling them, a lot of people for my birthday, and I'm like totally shocked at this, PayPal'd me birthday money, and people that I never would have thought of, and some of them I didn't. I mean, I know of them or whatever, but I never figured in a million years they were going to send me birthday money. But I just about got enough money in my birthday money in PayPal to pay for that Ender 3. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to end up buying that. So let's go down to Dickson Hoffman. And from my understanding, Paul and Al have been telling me that you are the man to talk to on 3D printing.
Oh, thanks a lot. That's a big compliment.
How long have you been doing 3D printing?
Oh, somewhere between 6 and 8 years.
Wow.
I copied everybody, not copied, but everybody used Joel Prusa's Prusa i3. He's back in the UK. He started building them a long time ago, and everybody took his design, and that's where I started way back when you couldn't buy kits. And I have one of my original ones that I built with the Arduino board years ago.
Wow.
And I'm actually running the X and the Y axis on spider wire, which is that real strong filament. And I was really surprised how accurate it is. And I actually started doing my production parts on that machine. And then back then, they didn't have all these companies with these kits. And so I actually ended up building about 7 of those machines, using this one to print other ones. and I ended up selling them and coming out pretty good. And about 2-3 years ago, the market dropped out. Now, like you said, that Ender 3, it's crazy with the technology. I'm lucky if I could get $100 for this, but a while back I was coming out really good. It was only costing me $100 for the parts, and then I was watching all the forums and YouTubes, and a couple years ago, it's got to be maybe more than that. They came out with them CR10s, and that design. When I seen that design, I thought that's really going to go somewhere. So I have a CR10 back here that I run a lot of production parts, and then a Anycubic Delta printer, and I 3D print a lot of night lights with that one. Them lithos night lights that I design and sell them, and then I have a big that thing weighs a ton, a huge little TiVo monster, and I've been playing with that. I bought that about 2 months ago. Once you get into this.
Now I understand where the rabbit hole, because
Yeah, but
you had more and more and more.
No, you don't have to do that. You got to remember, every time I would not buy one until it was paid for. I had a PO from making money from my other ones, and there's not one printer here that I bought that I didn't get from making parts.
Okay.
So, and you don't need to buy all these printers. I'm actually running these things quite a lot for certain production parts, but it's a rabbit hole, but it's not that bad. You don't have to unless it's something you want to do. I actually make money with all of these, so it helps. Otherwise, I would not buy all these printers.
Real quick, what is the maintenance? One of the things I'm thinking about is maintenance, and then also if you do break apart, are they easy to get apart for? I know some of the stuff you could 3D print yourself, but my point is that you're not going to 3D print a steel lead screw, so. What about parts? Are parts pretty well readily available, and the maintenance on them?
Yes, you can. If you can't get the part from a CR10, you need it quicker. They have these lead screws and all these parts right on Amazon now. They're pretty easy to get a hold of.
Okay.
I actually did, because I have 2 CR10s, and some of them do nylon and ABS, and I run them quite often. I actually did buy a spare parts here, the nozzle and stepper motor, each spare piece, because I think I got them off of Amazon. I didn't have to wait. They were right on Amazon. I bought the kits in case something would break down. I had it there to quick get it on and get running again. I'd say the biggest maintenance is going to be, I've been running these a lot, and the belts still are not wore out, but I would say your belts, and maybe if you have an extruder, that a nozzle that plugs up, you might have to get a nozzle. There's not a lot of maintenance. These wheels, sooner or later, I don't know how many hundreds of parts I got off of this machine, and these nylon wheels are still holding up. But there's a trick to that too. It depends how you can't have them too tight, or you'll get drifting on your prints, and you can't have them too loose, or you'll have other things going wrong when you're printing.
Right. Cool. Steve Carmichael's out there in the chat. Good to see you out there, Mr. Carmichael. And he said he has the Prusa 13 kit, and he'd like to try a new one. So, yeah, the Ender 3, excuse me, guys, is on sale right now. GearBest has it for $189. And like I said, if you sign up for the newsletter, they'll send you a $10 coupon, and so it takes it down to $179. So, don't order until after tomorrow, because make sure I can get one when I get off the show. I have to go order one. So y'all rascals go out there and order all them darn things, and they're gone. I'm gonna be mad.
I think that Ender 3 is going to really hurt a lot of other companies with these smaller printers. It's going to run them out of business, that Ender 3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for $179, I can pull the plug on that, because, like I said, I just about got almost that much within $20 of from my birthday money. So it's like, that's not expensive. It's not like spending $1,000 or $600 or $800. That's pretty reasonable. I mean, you can't even buy a
DeWalt drill.
Yeah, I mean, for 108, or a good chop saw, a miter saw So that's within reason. I don't mind, spending that amount of money, but I sure would. I assure you, if you told me $500 or $600, nah, I just wait on down the road till I have. Right now, I'm kind of in not a financial bind, but I've spent a lot of money on getting my roof done. So I'm kind of slowing down on expenditures until next year. We got Christmas coming up. I have 7 kids, 9 grandchildren, and 1 great grandchild. So cut them
off.
Yeah. we already told them this is going to be kind of a lean Christmas this year, trust me, because of having to spend all that money on the roof. But I got a roof, man. I'm happy. From Irma last year, went by and decided to take part of it off. So, but that's real good. But I do want you to show them the nightlight that you produce out. That is just off the chain. That is awesome, man.
Yeah, we're doing lithos, and I have a bracket that I designed, and it super glues. This stuff loves super glue. So I designed this bracket, and I glue it on my lithos, and they look like an ordinary piece of plastic, but once you get the light just right, it shines. It's crazy. It's I remember my 2 little
4 minutes. Yeah, hold it up for a few. Look at that, guys.
When I get that, and this doesn't do justice. I mean, it just shows up so neat when it's nighttime.
That is absolutely fantastic.
Now, do you print that image into the plate like that?
I'll tell you a little secret. I got to think of a website. There's a website that you take your image, you bring it over there. I've been selling these for $17, and
don't tell us any secrets that you'll lose money over if everybody starts doing it.
They could go ahead. I got other things. But you go to this website and you give them the image and you do some adjustments. It's another software thing. You do all these adjustments and you export it. You download it to your computer with the image, and then you got that curve. You can make a sphere, you can make an arc, you can make it flat, and I 3D print these standing up like this. And I usually run the delta. I keep that running pretty steady, 3D printing 340s at a clip. And then I glue them brackets. I make a bunch of brackets, glue them on there, and they snap right onto this LED light. It just snaps on like that, and you plug it in, and it just shines. It looks so neat once it lights up.
I imagine that. I can just imagine what that would look like. But when you say you print it standing up, it prints standing. So it's only like maybe 1 or 2 passes of the filament going down that curve. It's not very much, obviously.
Right. It goes back and forth. I'd have to look at my settings because it took me a while to get this down to a science, and now I got it down, and I keep a lot of notes. That's the catch with this is somebody tries it. They could go ahead and try it. I'll send you my settings. And you'll be amazed how that just makes these ridges and bumps. And then when you shine a light in it, it pops. It's really awesome. Neat.
That is awesome, guys. And you need to thank this guy too for sharing all this stuff with, because he's given away. I think he's given away some trade secrets over there. So I appreciate it, and I'm sure that those out there watching appreciate it that have 3D printers. I haven't seen any questions, although Dave Hart come up with a good idea. When I get this 3D printer, I print all my grandkids and kids 3D. I print all their gifts.
There you go.
Man, I never thought about
money. $20 for a roll of filament, and you're set.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll come up with something.
Filament goes a long way.
Yeah. That's another thing I was going to ask you. And I don't want I want all y'all, because all y'all are doing this tonight. As far as Paul and Al and Jim and Dixon, but the filament, what types of filament? Who wants to talk about that? Paul left, so I think he's going after a couple of rolls. So
I'll start. Okay. I started using PLA because they said it was the best. I guess that's relative, but it's food grade, so you can actually make stuff with it that you can eat with. I just got some ABS, which is like I want to say like PVC pipe. Is that right? Maybe. But anyway, the two differences that I note is some temperatures maybe are different, and the way the PLA melts or adheres to each other, you use super glue, just regular CA glue. The way the ABS adheres is you take nail polish remover or acetone, and you make a slurry of this stuff, and then it glues together. And I haven't really even printed. I have one roll of the ABS. I haven't even printed in it, and I like the PLA so much that I'm using it. I think I'm on my third roll of PLA in the last 4 months, and I've wasted a lot of stuff. But I don't know. To me, that's my spin on it. There's also other types that maybe the other guys can talk about. But
that's PLA right there. That's a roll of PLA. I think, like Al said, I think it's about $17.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's pretty cheap.
And
does it come in different colors?
Yes.
Oh yeah, any color you want.
Tons of colors. Here's a roll of orange, and I took this out of the box. I get mine from 3D Solutech. I don't know if you guys can see this. Yeah, it might be backwards, but
no. That's
okay, it came up right.
Yeah.
But if you kind of notice, it comes in a plastic bag, and if you can see, they've sucked all of the air out of this because the PLA is kind of sensitive to humidity and stuff like that. Because, like Al said, it's basically a vegetable product. So my office is down in the basement, and I'm kind of afraid that, like, the ones that I've opened already, like the orange one, and I've got a black and a blue spool here in the corner. This is the one that came with my printer, and I can kind of tell when I use it already that it's not the same as it was.
Does it
it'll absorb moisture and.
Okay, that's something good that I want to bring up. Then let's hold that thought there real quick. Let's Steve. What about you? Your filament? What do you normally use?
I use the brand I use is Hatchbox. I've had really good. I've used a bunch of different.
Hatchbox is good too.
Hatchbox is the one I like the best, and I can order it on Amazon and have it at my front door in 2 days. So
right, is that PLA or ABS or?
I only use PLA.
Only
it works for everything I do with it. I've even made screws and threaded inserts, and believe it or not, they hold fine.
Wow.
Yeah, you can print a bolt and a nut. I mean, here's.
Yep.
I printed the. Look at the. I don't know if you can see it. It'll focus.
Yeah, see the thread.
But look at the threads on that thing. This is my fidget spinner. I put the nut on it, and I just sit here and turn it on and off all the time.
All right,
when I printed that, it was just so amazing to me that you could get such detail in something like a thread. Yeah, that looks. We've got a time delay here, and I'm looking at where I just held it up at, but you can see that it's really, really fine threads on it that you can print.
All right, Dickson, what are first off, what are the filaments that you can run through your machines?
PLA is what you want to start with because it's the simplest and easiest to deal with to get all your settings in your Cura machine for your process control. I ran ABS and I run nylon, PLA, and believe it or not, I did modify one of the heads and I did Ninja Flex. This is a rubber tire. The threads, the threads are there. I even got the where the rim goes. You can see the two ridges inside where you set the rim. And what you do with these tires, no matter what size you print, if you put 20% infill in there, you got a nice snow tire. If you 30, 40, 50%, you got a stiffer tire. So it's you can do it, but what you do on your heads, and it has to be a direct feed. It can't be mounted to the side like I did with these called a Bowden system. I've done this because it's a simpler system and you don't have no weight of that stepper motor going back and forth on that XY. So you need a direct drive or something like this is one I 3D printed years ago, a direct drive like this. And what you do when you feed, there's a bearing here and it runs off the gear and the stepper motor gets mounted over here. I took the polyflow tubing, that's high temperature polyflow tubing, and I cut a V in it so that butts right up against that bearing edge right in here and the gear. And then the Ninja Flex is rubbery. It will feed in without jamming up. If you go with a boating system, you can't feed that rubber through them tubes. I didn't have any luck, but I set it up this way. And once you push that flow in there and you got a V cut in that polyflow, you got a V cut in that, it butts right in that crack, and now it has nowhere to wrinkle up on you. That's worked the best. But the nylon, very strong. You can hit it with a hammer. The ABS, I actually changed my slitter blade mechanisms I designed to ABS because it's so much strength on there. A guy took a tractor tire and he hung the tractor tire on there and he put PLA on there. PLA is so stiff, it'll sooner or later, it'll snap at like 400 pounds. Well, he took nylon and ABS and put it on there, and it was so strong, he got up to 700 pounds with this little hook.
Wow.
So it's stronger than what people think.
It's a lot stronger than what I thought. Question for you, though. You know, the other guys, Jim was talking about does temperature and humidity affect some of these, like the PLA?
Yes, but not PLA as much. Believe it or not, I got maybe 15, 20 rolls down there open, and I have no problems with the PLA, but you don't want to keep, it depends. If your basement's really humid, I would want to keep it in a bag so it doesn't suck the moisture, the humidity.
You wouldn't need, in other words, to make something to store it in to keep, is it temperature sensitive?
Well, it's temperature sensitive as far as process control, but PLA is not going to suck that humidity. I'm using rolls that's been open for a long time, and they're running great. Now, nylon and ABS, that's a different story, especially nylon. Nylon will suck moisture like you won't believe. You put a roll of nylon in your machine, and you turn it on, and it's going to sound just like Rice Krispies. It'll snap, crackle, and pop.
Yeah. Well, my point is about this, though. Should you make something like a chamber to put some of this stuff in to keep it so the humidity can't get to it, or just by putting it in a plastic sealing, like a Ziploc bag, and sealing it up? Is that good enough?
That'll work. And then if you throw some desiccant in there, that'll work even better. But yes, you just throw it in a Ziploc and you're good to go. Okay. Nylon's different.
Would work to store this, right?
Ice chest? Yeah, I never thought about that.
Ice chest, and as far as the desiccant, you can find it at any of the big box stores. There's some stuff called damp rid.
Yeah, damp rid. Yep.
And it just comes in the tub, and it's made to sit in basements or places that.
Right. No, I've used
it. Sucks up all the humidity. You can take it outside, set it in the sun, let it dry out, and use it again.
Yeah.
Yes, that would work. And you have to remember too, as far as all these rolls, you have to be real careful when you're ordering this filament. And some Hatchbox is excellent, but you're going to pay for it. I found out this here. Jim had this. I've been getting excellent results. I got this a couple years ago, and I've been with Solutech. I've been getting excellent results.
I really like it.
Sometimes I'll find this for 15, 16 bucks. And I'm getting really good results. I'm sticking with this because I'm getting such smooth results with my prints. And then there's a fourth one. There's Pet G. Pet G is really awesome. It looks like a glass. I have these vases, and every angle on this vase is different, and it's a shiny, shiny glass.
Oh,
that's nice.
And you can get. I'll tell you where the rabbit hole comes in. I got about 6 rolls down there of one called Sparkling Green. I want to try all these colors. The other one's called Stone, and I don't get a chance to try these colors. That's where it comes in. But this Pet G is a higher temperature, and that's like a brittle glass. But I have already printed gears with this stuff, and it is like a hard piece of glass.
What do you print at with that temperature-wise?
You're getting up to like the ABS. You're getting the same temperatures, around 240, 250. The CR10 back here, I took that. Jim probably knows this. Sometimes you got to wait a long time for this big bed to heat up.
Yeah,
So I
15
modified
minutes
it.
or yeah.
Yeah, I
What'd you
modified
do
it,
to
and I got the I got the SSR in it, and I got the pad underneath it, the heat pad. So now it heats up in like a minute and
Yeah.
30
Wow,
seconds.
that's fast.
Tom Spillane was saying it sounds like you need a dehumidifier, but then he come back and said, "But Tom Spillane's out there in the chat." And no, I don't. What Dixon is saying, you don't need really a dehumidifier, but I do like Katie's idea about getting a cooler and putting it in a cooler and having some damp rid in there, because that would be very you don't have to have an expensive cooler for that. That would be very inexpensive in a way to keep it. But to repeat what Dixon said, you just put it in a plastic bag and keep it away from the humidity, and you should be all right. Now,
When I went to the Midwest, they call it MRF. It's a Midwest Rep Rap Festival or something like that. They have 3 big 3D printing shows every year, and the Midwest one is actually only about an hour from my house here. But I went there, and these guys were pulling plastic bags of spools up with rice in them too, so you can use
rice. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Try stuff out too.
Yep. If you ever dropped your cell phone in water, that toilet water, but you were brave enough to go in after it, you can put it in a jar and put rice in it and seal it and leave it for a couple of days, and it'll suck all the moisture out of your cell phone. Yeah. Don't ask me how I know that.
I had thought about just getting a plastic tub, a storage tub, and putting my filament in there and throwing some desiccant bags in there. And
yeah,
you're right, Russ. You don't have to spend money. My nylon roll is in a wine box with a piece of conduit going through it. It's all sealed up. After I put the nylon roll, because you don't have no idea, how long it was on a shelf somewhere. I baked it in the oven for a little while, for a half hour, like at 120, and I put it in the wine box, and there's desiccant in there, and it's all sealed up, and then I got a glass piece cut in there for a window, and then the polyflow comes right up, and when I got to use it, I hook it up to the machine, and then I run it. That way it keeps, and there's desiccant laying in. I bought a big bag of desiccant on Amazon, and I leave like an inch of that on the bottom inside this wine box.
Yeah, see, there's
that's nice.
I don't think you have to go to extreme to keep that, but that's a pretty good idea. Ken McCrory's out there in the chat right now. Tom Spillane, I just said. Who else? Ken McCrory, Jimbo. 5312 is out there. Dennis Godson, Michelle Marcoux, all those guys are out there in the chat. If you have any questions for anyone on the panel, if you have a specific question, like for Paul, say, "Hey, Paul, ask the question," or if you just want to open a question, just let us know while we're talking here. Because
hey, Russ, I have a question.
Sure.
What slicer is everybody using?
Cura.
Using Cura. Is anybody else using Simplify 3D? It's expensive, but man, is it good.
Yeah, I think it's only like $120, $30, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to pull the plug on it and get it one of these days, but I just don't do enough of it
yet. Just for customizing the supports, it's almost worth it just for that.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
That would be on this thing. On this thing today, and Paul saw it. I had supports. I've got some little tiny letters. I had supports all the way up there, and I had supports in here, and I'm like, I probably don't really need it. It was okay, but yeah, it'd be nice if I could get rid of some of the supports.
And the supports that it generates are really easy to take off. When I use Cura, I would have a hard time sometime. Like for instance, the inside of this. You won't be able to see it, but the inside of this has some supports in it, and they're actually pretty hard to dig out of there. And when I went to Simplify 3D, they just pop right out. I don't know what they do different. Maybe they're thinner or whatever, but it's nice software.
Maybe Cura is open source, so maybe that's not on their radar yet, for somebody to fix.
The nice thing about Cura is it's easier to use. Simplify 3D is going to take you 3 weeks just to figure out how to use it.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Al,
like
you could print that. You could print that without any supports, and it'd come out awesome.
Yeah, I probably should have. I don't remember if I did one of these without supports. I think the first one, to be honest with you, I don't remember.
Yeah, when I look at that piece, I would 3D print that with no supports, I'd 3D print it in 3 pieces and then just super glue. And they would come out. They would come out really good.
That's one of my problems. That's why I'm printing the Band-Aids right now. Yeah, this piece needs to be one. This one needs to be another one.
Yes.
And then, of course, the Band-Aid.
And they'll come out, printing them that way, they'll come out just like glass with the right settings.
Yep.
Simplify 3D is really awesome, but I'm not going to change when something's working. I'm a Kira guy, and it's working great with my, and I can't, like I was talking to Al before, I have the 15.4 because I like the algorithms of that software better than the new Kira. They've been having some issues with the new version, and I stay with the old version because it prints so well.
But Dave Hart wants to know, do the printers come with software?
No.
Just the firmware on the screen. That's it.
Yep.
And you got to be careful when you buy certain printers. You'll be all right with the CR10s and that, but I found a program bug inside this big TiVo, little monster. There's a software bug in it, and I know exactly how to fix it. And there's certain things I tweaked. If they buy these cheaper Chinese printers, you should really go into the configuration H file. You should do some tests with it. You should, when you're leveling the bed and that, you should actually put some marks on your PLA and make sure if you say 10 millimeters, is it really feeding in the extruder 10 millimeters? If it's not, you can go into that configuration H file and tweak the steps on the stepper motor. And you can do the same thing with the X, Y, and Z. Is it really moving 20 millimeters when you tell it to move one way 20 and 20 the other? And if it's not, you can fine tune it, and that could be some of your problems with certain prints.
Right.
On Thingiverse, I've printed one of these things, and I don't see it around here anyplace. I printed off some calibration cubes.
Yes.
So it would be a cube, but
yes,
it's going to be so much wide on the bottom, and then it's going to have cubes dug out of it that are different sizes too, and then you can take something to measure them and make sure that it's printing what it's supposed to.
Sure. These CR10s, even though they're excellent printers, the first thing I did was I got rid of the glass and got a mirror, but then I put a piece of paper on every corner and told it to go down there, and I slid the paper with the nozzle, and then a piece of paper is around 3 to 4 thousandths. Then I know I'm that close. This is how I calibrate, and then I level the bed. And then when I'm finished with that, I'll do a 20 millimeter cube, 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters in the middle. And just by looking at the bottom and the sides, you can see exactly what's wrong with the printer. Then when I'm done with that, I'll tell it to do 2 millimeter high by 2 millimeters square on the outside perimeter. And once you touch that down on that sheet of paper, and then it's pretty close, then it's 3D printing around the outside parameter. And then I finished the calibration of the bed on the fly. All of a sudden, you see that little piece of thread. I don't know if you can see, there's one here. All of a sudden, you see that starting to print, and you can look at that little piece of thread, and you can see if it's mushed down, like if you look at it with a microscope. And you can see if when it's going lower and higher, and you go underneath and just calibrate on the fly.
Yeah.
Calibrate on the fly, and you'll get that perfect thread. Now you know that thing is totally calibrated, because there's so many people on forums. I can't get it to stick. I can't get it level. My 3 rules are: make sure it's level, make sure it's level, make sure it's level. The bed has to be level to start with, because you're dealing with a 0.04 nozzle.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of like,
and the layers are typically like 0.2 of a millimeter thick or something like that. So
yes, it's just a hair, and they have to be perfect when they lay down. You'll see it right away when you grab a product and you look at it. A 22 millimeter cube. If I go up to somebody's printer, my buddy that I sold him a printer, he's had problems. He accidentally crashed the bed. I told him with the firmware, when I customized the Marlin firmware, I says, once you put that in manual, all bets are off. It's your responsibility. Well, he crashed into the glass and busted the glass. I said, you had it in manual, didn't you? And he goes, yeah, I did. I said, okay, all bets are off. Well, I brought it back and I calibrated it for him again. And So in the firmware, you can do a lot of tweaking too, as far as, you know, like if you buy a 3D printer and one of the stepper motors are getting hot, that's another thing I check all of them when I first get them. I tune the little drives, the stepper motors. They all can be tuned in. They should be all tuned in. The larger ones should be at, I think it's 2.4 volts, and the smaller larger ones, I gotta be at 0.4 to 0.6 volts, and the smaller ones should be 0.2 to 0.3. That way you'll get no skipping. You won't get cracks or seams. There's a lot of things because it's process control and it's temperatures that could affect your prints.
Right. That's some kind of similar with this getting the bed on a CNC level.
Yes.
Is really because when I first got mine, I had it level, but it's a little bit different. You actually let the CNC shave off the high and low spots.
Yes.
So that's a little bit different. But when I got mine, I had the bed set, but then I had problems with the gantry, and I got a new gantry for it, which actually a double gantry, which makes it a lot stronger. And I did a project, and I noticed that the project wasn't right. On one side, it was the perfect depth, but on the other side, it wasn't. And I'm like, holy crap, what in the world happened? It didn't dawn on me that I needed to level that bed with that new gantry. In other words, that changed. And you would never think it in a million years, but it did. So I had to re-level the bed again with that gantry, and now everything's fine.
Hey, Russ.
Yes.
Can you see my screen share?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to show you something, Russ, that you'll find very interesting because of the fact that you use CorelDRAW. This is a page on Thingiverse. You see all these patterns right here? These are all my scroll saw patterns that people have uploaded to Thingiverse. And the reason this works is because they're all vector files, and they can be put into 3D graphics programs and extruded. So once you have that 2D file and you extrude it in Blender or whatever 3D software you use, then you can print them out as a 3D print. And you can see all these are all my patterns that somebody's uploaded.
Cool.
I know you use CorelDRAW, so if you're worried about learning the software, you're off to a big start before you even get started.
Right. I was that way whenever I got the CNC. I realized actually Dave Gatton had told me that he says, if you already know CorelDRAW, you can work Vectric software. And I tried using Vectric. Don't get me wrong. Vectric's a very good software. It's just a little bit different. So I found myself quicker just creating a CorelDRAW, exporting a DXF, uploading, putting it into Vectric, and boom, off I go.
The easy way of doing it.
Just real quick, have you got the new 2018 CorelDRAW yet?
No, I haven't.
I did. I got it the other day. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. They sent me a coupon for like
50% off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the same coupon.
Yeah, I ended up getting it for like I think it was $179 upgrade, and I ended up getting it for like $60-70. I think it was time it was all said and done. But anyway, I love that new symmetry.
Yeah.
Where you can do half, like and I was trying to tell that the other night on Twitch, where you can do, let's say you get a picture of something and one side of it's really nice and clear, but the other side's either fuzzy or out of focus, shifted because of the way the camera angle. Well, you can copy that one side, and the symmetry will automatically duplicate that and flip it over for you.
Yeah.
So, or you can come up for clocks. We were talking about the other night. I did it on Twitch. I did a little thing about it. For clocks, you put your little hash thing up there, and then boom, it goes around. You tell it you want 12, and it puts them all the way around just perfectly in each position for the clock. So, yeah, it's got a lot more features in there that I really like. So it's very much worth if they offer it to you for that. I've been using it for this. I bought it either Sunday or Monday, I believe it was. So I got to use it this week. I used it for a couple of days and did a show Wednesday night about it, and I really looked like an idiot because I hadn't used it long enough.
I actually used it for several hours last week because I was over at the library using their laser engraver, and they have 2018 on all their computers. So I did use it for a little bit, but as much money as that company makes me, I need to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you buy it, or I had the deal, they sent me the deal. You automatically got Particle Shop, and they give you 3 whatever they call them, but pencils or whatever in the Particle Shop. So I got Particle Shop also. Let me tell you, that's pretty neat stuff too. Particle Shop is
for free, especially.
Yeah, you get Particle Shop and 3. It's like pen tools is the only way I can describe it, but they're 3 packs, and each one of them has different things that you can do. Like, and you can do hair. In other words, you can take a picture and you can take their pen and run across it, and it'll put like hair all across it. I mean, it's pretty cool. I've been using it, and you get a direct link from Corel Draw into Particle Shop. In other words, you just basically go in there and tell it, take this to Particle Shop, you do your thing and bring it right back into Corel.
Yep, just like photo paint.
Yep. So really, really nice. I really am impressed with. I wasn't impressed with 2017 when I upgraded it. I was actually like kind of ticked that I did that. I should have waited.
Wasn't much difference.
Yeah, there wasn't that much difference. So they actually got my money on that one. But this one, 2018, is definitely an upgrade. So
sorry to throw you on sidetrack there.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. That's no problem, because it's still kind of talking about this kind of stuff. Because from my understanding, in this 3D printing, we can use Corel to create some of the stuff, and then
it depends on the project. If you can think of it in 2D and extruded, then it'll work. Now, there's a lot of projects you can't do that with, but that does work.
I think, Russ, Corel Draw, I used that years ago. I don't use it anymore. There's ways to take that DXF file and you can do your thing on there and convert it to an STL. And that's the ticket, is to do it the simplest way you can. Because this V-Carve Pro that I bought, I watched years ago when he started out, and it was version 4 or something. I finally bit the bullet about a half a year ago and got the 9, or they sold it 3 or 4 months ago. I bought the 9. Before that, what I did was I had a Bobcat 18 that I had hacked the program to make all my G code in that. I would use that Bobcat 18, and I would take my science software. I could make something in a couple minutes on that, like nothing. Export it as a DXF, boom, convert it into Bobcat, and throw it on Mach 3 or Mach 2 back then. I was good to go. So it's the easiest way. It works the best.
Any have we had any more questions? I know we've been talking. I haven't been paying attention.
I do have a question on materials. There's another material called Settle or POM. Is that an option?
PLA.
No, I'm not talking about the PLA. There's another one that's called POM. Is that anything that anybody's familiar with?
No, not me.
Okay. It's not a big deal. I was just curious. It's
The most popular one is the PLA, because I do
the
80% of my stuff. Yeah, and then there's PET G, and then there's ABS and nylon. Yeah. But they have carbon fibers too. But now you got to buy the stainless steel tips, and that carbon fiber stuff is extremely strong. But you got to. If I took a carbon fiber roll and put it on my machine, she'd turn that that nozzle right into a 1/4-inch hole. It would wear out in no time at all.
Right.
Yeah.
One print, it would be shot. That nozzle would be shot with carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And I run into the POM. I was looking at these quick release buckles, and put them on dog collars or horseware.
Yes.
And I found out, read rather quickly, that nylon, which a lot of those buckles are made out of nylon.
Yes.
They absorb moisture. If they're out in the elements, like on horse or horse clothing, they'll freeze and crack. But
it says the POM is used in thermoplastic to engineer gears, wheels,
I think it may be
high impact resistance. It says that the M16 rifle stock is made out of POM.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks. I'm looking at it, the Wikipedia thing for it, and it looks like it just flows.
Are they actually printing with this stuff?
I don't know.
It's a filament.
Oh, really? See, they come out with new things all the time. I mean, there's some stuff out there that's really neat. I got a roll downstairs. It's called Stone. I didn't get a chance to test it, but I found out it's twice as easy for me to 3D print something and spray it with that can of it looks just like stone after you spray it.
Yeah.
Here's a vase. Here's a black PLA. I buy tons of black PLA and just spray it.
Yep.
That's why when I started looking 3-4 years ago, I started looking at these double nozzles and everything, and I just thought all the programming in it, it's not worth it. I'm just going to 3D print and get a can of Krylon, and I'm good to go.
Hey, Dickson, was it you that was telling me that you can also spray the actual filament?
Yes, I got these 2 pieces.
So you can actually paint different colors?
I was experimenting. I actually took the rolls and I unraveled them and I laid them out and I took Krylon paint and I painted real lightly. Let me get the 2 pieces. I'll be right back.
Yeah, looks really cool.
To answer Ken, I was going to type it out, but to answer Ken McCrory's question, yes, you can print carbon fiber. He just said that you just have to make some modifications, a stainless steel tip for your. But yes, you can print carbon fiber. That's pretty cool.
Well, you can.
They have a jewel
fiber.
They have
it's not really pure carbon fiber.
Right,
yeah.
Right. It's mixed in it. There's no way. They have a jewel tip, and I never tried it. It's $100, and it's supposed to not wear. But I think you got to be careful because I've heard guys say that it falls right out of the tip. A couple guys had it fall out of the tip. I'm not going to pay $100 for a tip, and it's not really. It's supposed to be a real jewel in it. But anyway, here's the piece. I actually unraveled this. It's gold and silver. And I spray painted it, and I actually went through the extruder, and it never plugged up the extruder. Here's where I started the other one.
The paint. Oh
Yeah.
my word!
Yeah, it was fused right in. I unraveled a couple strands, quite a bit, and I spray painted the edge, one blue, one red, and then I did the silver and gold, and I ran it through, and it went right through. It went right through, and it never. I'm still using that
nozzle
was on one of my CR10s. I'm still using that tip. Never plugged up.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, what kind of paint? Just acrylic?
Krylon. Yeah, for my side business, everything. See,
Krylon.
about 6-7 years ago, Krylon changed their formula, and they did a good job because they changed the polymers in the formula, and now it gets rock hard. They wanted an automotive finish coming out of a can. And that was the best company I thought that got the closest to their formula changing like that. So I do a lot of lines and all that in Krylon in my business. The only
problem I have with Krylon is the dead burn tips get stopped up so easy if you don't use the can. But what I've learned to do is I got me a little jar and I keep mineral spirits in it. And if I'm not going to use the can, I'll pull the tip off and throw it in that jar and seal it up. Then when I go to use the can, I just reach in that jar and pull out there's a bunch of tips in there from the different cans. I just pull out a tip and stick it on the can and go for it. If you don't, those things will clog up in a heartbeat, and you can't get them unclogged.
Exactly right, Russ. That's what you do. You take the tips off. I take a razor if I forget and they're hard. I take a razor blade and scrape it down. It usually all comes off. But you're right. That's what you do. You put it in a jar.
Hey, Dickson, have you ever thought about counting the steps on a model and putting that spray paint at exactly the step count that you want? That would be awesome.
I know. I started looking at programming. I program. I modify Marlin, and I get these printers, and I see the mistakes in the software. That TiVo should not have that mistake there, but if it's got the power failure in it, so when the power goes off, it's supposed to continue on where it left off. Well, it's forgetting about when you set it up, the calculations in your G code on the start. You gotta calibrate it, and you put that 0.07 for calibrating in. Once the power goes off, the program doesn't know that you started at that point, so it starts doing it 0.07 in the air. It doesn't know, so you can go in there and modify that. That's not ran on Marlin. That's a different C++ but yeah, you're right. There's that machine out there that does them colors, and they heat it and it splices it. I forgot what it's called. I looked at all of that, and then I started thinking, wow, I think I could do that. I think I could. Then I started thinking of putting a sponge roller soaked in paint and calculating it, switching it off. And then you can calculate that with the Arduino. There's nothing you can't do just about with an Arduino with the code. Right. And I started looking at that and thinking, okay, I should be able to calculate that, have a head come down with a sponge with different colored paint, and then be able to time that so when the next color starts, to start calculating with the slicer.
If you think about it, that's what the 4 filament printers are doing. They're just putting it in there at the right time. So the calculation's not hard.
Well, I would go get Joel Pruse's. I would go get Joel Pruse's firmware. He's got it down because now I think he's got 2 or 3 heads on there.
Yeah.
But when I was talking to Al the other day, I'm telling you, you could take any printer and turn it into a Ultimaker. You can make it print like a $3,000-$4,000 printer, any one of them with just a few modifications. The Ultimakers and the MakerBots, they're the MakerBots. I'm not too keen on them, but the Ultimakers, they're excellent machines. All these other machines for $3,000-$4,000, they're excellent machines, but you could take a $200 printer and make it print just like the $3,000 one.
Yep. Yeah, I knew this was going to come up tonight. So I'm kind of people talking about in the chat about 3D printing the gun since that thing come out about that website that now has the 3D patterns for 3D printed guns. I just before we get into that, I'd just like to say one thing. I mean, come on, take a break. I think anybody that's ever owned a 3D printer could have already thought about this. What the big deal about it was for the state attorney or the district attorney, United States attorney, or whatever they thought was they didn't want them to have those patterns up on a website for people to have free access to it. But they finally won the battle in courts, and they basically had to back off, and they can put that up on a website, and that's what they've done. But there's a couple of points I want to make. Okay, I don't think you can print 3D bullets and make them work. They got to have gunpowder and stuff in them. So you're still going to have, if you go through a metal detector with a plastic gun, it's still got metal bullets. People, come on, think about this. So
there's reloaders.
I get a kick out of that
all day long.
Yeah, but it's still got to have a metal casing and everything for it to fire.
Russ, I get a kick out of that. You see these guys. This is gonna shoot the same as a Glockland. What do they call it? It's gonna shoot a 8mm. But I'm telling you what, there's gonna be a metal barrel in it, and there's gonna be a metal magazine in it. Yeah, it's impossible. They're conning you. This gun, when I finish this gun, you won't be able to tell it looks like this. I'm gonna have this. It's gonna look like it's blued. I'm going to epoxy it and everything, and it's going to shoot a real bullet, but it's going to have a magazine, and it's going to have a barrel in it, metal, not plastic.
Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is it's not serialized.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't have a serial number so that they can trace it to who owned it last or who manufactured it and all that. I understand all that, but because there's another thing that they have at these airports that a lot of people don't understand too, and that is the sniffers. You ever walk through that thing where it shoots the air all in all different directions from you, and you have to stand there and it clears you and you go off? Several years ago, and I know this for a fact, there was a kid that went through there, and they had his butts in the back room in a matter of a few minutes. He had the day before been it was like on a 4th of July or a January New Year's or whatever. But anyway, they'd been setting off fireworks, and he was wearing the same tennis shoes through that sniffer that they had set off fireworks with, and it picked up the gunpowder. So these things can pick up minute particles of gunpowder if you have any kind of residue on you through the airport, and it'll go off, and they got you in a room, and you're not going to get away for a while till you get all that explaining about how this happened. So, I mean, it can go on, and we can talk about this for hours. But
you get a kick out of this, Russ. You want to see something that'll shoot spikes. If you want to, you don't have basements down there. But if you want to make sparks in your basement, this thing can shoot a spike pretty darn good.
Wow!
This is spider wire right here, and the PLA is printed so it flexes just the right amount. And then I took the spring-loaded trigger is from a pen. And here's the spike with a groove cut in it. And this would do some damage close up.
Oh, I bet it would.
But it's just another, it's a compound. It's a small bowl, crossbow.
Yeah, it's a small crossbow. Could you set that up to shoot ball bearings?
Oh, sure.
Because you can buy ball bearings all day long, whatever size makes you happy.
Yeah.
that you need. You know, they're spec'd out pretty tight.
Yeah.
You can buy stainless steel, hardened, case hardened, whatever.
I guarantee you, Thingiverse has wrist rockets there that you could probably download and 3D print today. Just buy the surgical tubing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any questions from anybody else out there?
I got a comment
in the chat, huh?
I got a comment if you got a second.
Sure.
There's two YouTubers that I follow on 3D printers that are both really good. One of them's called Maker's Muse. He's excellent. And the other one is 3D Printer Nerd. Both of those guys are really good. They put out shows every 2 or 3 days. And they do a really
Joel
good job.
over here when the show was here. I met Joel, and yeah, I met him. I can't remember the other guy.
Yeah, the other guy's from Australia. The Maker's Muse.
Yeah, he's from Australia, but there was Ben Hecht.
Oh, Ben Hecht's
does
awesome.
Yeah, he was at Murph too. I got a picture with him, but yeah, he's a pretty smart guy.
He just quit his full-time show though. I'm disappointed because I love it.
Really?
Show. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
Got somebody new out there in the chat. Live to Learn. Is that Dana? D-A-N-A? Dana? Yeah, Live to Learn. Dana. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Dana.
I'm glad you came over and joined us tonight. Still got a lot of people out there watching, and like I said, if y'all have any questions, we're walking down. It's 9:23, so we need to get the questions in if y'all want to ask them. Anybody on the panel got anything else they want to ask?
Me, JD said can I use PLA in my DaVinci 1.0A that is using ABS? I would say yes. Just a different temperature.
I think the PLA is lower temperature than
210.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Start out at 210 and you'll get really good results.
For PLA or ABS?
PLA.
PLA.
ABS, you want to hit 250, 260, 240, somewhere in that area. You'll see right away as it's printing when you first do your test. I write all these notes down because I can't. Once I get it, man, I don't want to go back. Oh, what did I have this at? Or what job did I do this at?
I can imagine that.
I write all my notes. And
Dave brought up a good thing. Yeah, well, all these people out there watching, give me a thumbs up if you don't mind. Don't forget to hit the video thumbs up. And if you have any questions that after or anybody watching this later on, be sure to put them the questions down in the video afterwards, and I'll go comments. In other words, afterwards, and I'll usually go through and it notifies me if anybody comments on my videos through Gmail. So I'll get that, and then I can get a hold of Dickson and or Jim or Paul or Al or Steve Good, one of those. I'm sure they would more than likely be able to answer your question if you have one. So that's for all those of you who's going to watch this, this next week or so. So make sure you put your questions down there in the comments if you have them. I'm sure they'd be more than
I've got a technical question for Dickson.
Sure.
Yes.
Dickson, see this piece that I'm holding up? I print it in this orientation. Okay.
It's tough to see, but yeah, it looks like you got some.
The bottom is smooth. The sides are fine. How do I make the top smooth? Is there any settings that I can? I know you probably can't focus in on that good enough.
Yeah, it's bumpy. My pieces are. Yeah, you should be able to get that really smooth. Here's my top piece.
I can't never get the top smooth.
Smooth as glass. It's almost when you get that stitching look like this. Where's my camera? Like this right here. No, that's bottom. That's my top.
Wow. See, I want that.
It's like glass all the way around. If you get,
but
yeah,
what does he need to do to correct to get that look?
Is it my design or is it is it the setting on the printer?
God, that's tough to see with them bumps and ridges. But I would say,
it's not terrible, but it's not good. I want it to look like that.
Yes, you can do that. You can do that. It's going to be temperatures. It's going to be tweaking. What do you run that at? That's PLA. What were you running at?
I think it's 230.
That's why you're getting that gooey stuff. You should be drop it down to 220, 210.
Okay.
210, and you when you see that first layer go down on your bed, is it smooth?
Yeah.
That's because you're real close to the bed. See what I'm saying? Get crank that temperature, it's too hot and it's melting. You do have a cooling blower, right?
Yeah,
That was
right.
my
Because
question.
that's the difference between day and night. You have to
I
have
think
a
the cooling
blower.
blower is turned off on the first layer and then it's turned on after that. I think
Perfect.
that's the thing I've got.
Yes, perfect. And I would drop that temperature down.
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, if you I could grab anyone. You look at these pieces. Look at the sides.
Yeah.
Now you heard of salmon skin already, right?
No.
Salmon skin. If you see that right there, now I corrected that. See that?
Yeah.
Now, if you did a vase, you're going to get a pattern in a vase, and it's going to look like a salmon skin. It'll happen more likely on a delta than it'll happen on any other the Cartesian type. But sometimes it does happen on them, and then you got to put smoothers in your 3 axes. You don't need it in your feeder, but you need it in the X, Y, and Z, and it'll get rid of that 9. Put 9 diodes. I'll put 8 diodes smoothers in.
Explain that. What is that?
A smoother is like it cushions that signal. You know how you get the signal for your stepper motors?
Yeah.
They're going to get a little choppy up on the top end. They'll get a point and it'll get choppy. Okay. You put a smoother in there. Don't buy 4 diodes. Get the 9 because then you'll see the big difference. It'll smooth out your print. If you get what you call salmon skin. And it'll even smooth out ripples like I was showing before on this edge. Them ripples, it'll smooth them out. I had to put them in the big Delta printer, the Tiva Little Monster, because it's so huge and the prints are so big. I like it. You look at the vase, it's got this neat pattern going on it. But that gets rid of it. What it does is it chops that signal. Them 9 diodes will chop it. They get hot. And you want to make sure your steppers are calibrated before you start. You know, that voltage that when you get them from China, the steppers aren't really calibrated. They work, but they're not. And you can tell that sometimes because one of them will get real hot compared to the other ones.
Yep.
Well, you got to tune that. You got to tune that bigger one down. You got to tune it to 0.4, between 0.4 and 0.6 volts.
Is this DIY or is there an aftermarket part you can buy?
You can get these right off of Amazon, these smoothers. What it does is it chops that signals and it smooths that frequency out on them steppers.
Right.
And you might be missing a step or something that you can't see. And it's making a wave or it's making it rough on top. Or
so if it's the same missing step every sequence, then you would get a geometric pattern.
That's where you get salmon skin. That's why they call it. You could see that pattern. Now I'm talking about getting perfect prints. You know, you can get into this deep, but you put them smoothers on there. You know who's using that is who's that lathe company? Nova.
Yes.
It's like dynamic braking on their drive. Exactly. They're using that frequency drive and they're doing dynamic braking on it, so they don't have to mechanical brake on it. And it's sort of like that.
Yes. And how I know about that is because I was curious about the brake on the Nova. And when I did one of the Tampa Woodworking Show, they were there at the booth and they actually had one of their engineers there in the booth at, for Nova. And I asked him, I said, you know, I love that braking mechanism on my Nova lathe, but what I'm worried about is it being a mechanical and I'll wear it out after a while of using it all the time and everything. He says, no. And then he explained to me exactly like you're saying. They're actually using the wave patterns and everything and using like the magnetism to slow the motor down.
Yes.
So that he said, you won't wear it out and it won't hurt the motor either.
No, you can't wear it out. There's no moving parts. It's like when I set up big drives at work, it's called dynamic braking. But there's so much braking with the frequency drives, the big drives I set up at work, that we actually got to have these big resistors that the current flows through to cool it down. Jim would know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
We have some questions in the chat.
Yeah. Real quick, we got a couple of questions out there. I'm sorry, Brenda, is that what you were going to say?
Right.
Yeah. Go back. Let me back up just a little bit. First off, Aussie Man wanted to know is, and I can answer this one myself. What's the largest?
I'd like to get in on this one too, Russ.
What's the largest size item that can be 3D printed? Probably the sky's the limit, because last year or year before last, when I went to Maker Faire, they were doing 6-foot statues. They had this huge 3D printer there, and they were actually doing a statue that was over 6 foot tall. I mean, a human-sized statue that was standing there. So, I mean, I think you could probably make a 3D printer as big as you kind of wanted it. So that,
or what you do is you split your pieces up. So like if you have a small footprint, you split the piece up and then you glue it together.
Yeah, but my point is on a home small model, you wouldn't be able to get the diameter that they were producing. In other words, all at one time, you would have to split even that and the height. So
there's a 3D printer that uses concrete, and they actually 3D print homes.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that.
They're printing. They can print up to 4 homes a day.
Yeah. So that was the first one he had, but then he came back with a couple of more and was talking more with about like at a home or hobby machine, how big of an object can you? So like yours that you have there, all of y'all, what are realistically how big of an object that we could have on our home or hobby machines?
Well, mine does a foot by 16 inches high.
Sure.
So
there's a larger, there's a larger bed size for a CR10 too. I think it goes up higher, and there's a 400 by 400 by 400. And wasn't there a third one?
Sure.
I don't remember now.
Yeah, they got printers out there that you can buy for 10 grand. But when you use your CR10 and you go at full 304 millimeters, that's when you're going to find out when you get to the top if you really built it square.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yes.
You're exactly right.
Real quick.
And that's after 50 hours of printing.
I was gonna say, don't print something big. Do a cylinder to get up there to find out if you got it, or you'll find out like that Moon City I had. You'll find out then, because that was almost maxed out.
Yeah. So
I'll see while he's grabbing that. When I was at Murph, which is that printing show, I saw 2 booths that had. One guy had a 10-foot tall Delta printer, and it looks like that one behind Dickson there. And then another guy built one on 2x4s and some 80/20 rail, and that went all the way to the ceiling. So they were printing a 20-foot tall rocket inside a Delta printer. It was huge. It was probably 2 feet in diameter too.
So that was kind of like the one that I saw that actually had 3 posts.
That's a Delta. Yep.
Yeah. It had 3 posts, and like I said, it was. I'm going to say the posts were every bit of good 10 foot or more tall, but it was actually creating and they started it. The Maker Faire started Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they started on a Thursday when they set it up, printing that and let it run all the way through, and it ran for 3 days solid to print that statue.
That's what these guys did too. 3 days, and it was, they had a rocket.
It ran 24 hours a day. They had somebody stay there that night, and they had a cot, and they slept so they could keep an eye on it and everything during the night. They rotated out and let that thing just sit there and print 24 hours a day.
When those Deltas are running like this one here, another thing to remember, you can't get fooled. That's not just a regular 8-bit processor on there. I was going to try an Arduino because I was just curious, but when you're doing these math calculations with this type of Delta, you got to have a 32-bit processor doing these calculations, because it's the 8-bit is just not strong enough.
Yeah.
There's a 32-bit processor on that one too, and it has to have that to do these calculations for these prints.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until you put it on your lap. That was the printer they had.
Sure, they had a giant one of these. I even thought, instead of buying that TiVo, I got that at a really good price. I wanted to build my own, but I was curious with the Arduino board, and then I did some calculations. No way. You got to have I think there's a Duet board in there, and you have to have that processing power to do them calculations. It's just not like an XYZ machine.
Right. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's a mini version, but this thing was, like I said, I think it was taller than 10 foot, maybe, and I don't remember, but I know the statue was real size statue as far as like a 6-foot person, but yeah, it was like towering there and moving around. I stood there for like 30 minutes and watched it. I thought it was neat as crap.
That was I think that was one of the single biggest surprises I had when I got into 3D printing, is how long it takes to print something.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, it's depending on material, depth of cut, and all those other kind of things, it can take 2 or 3 hours to CNC something. Also,
yes. Yes.
And especially if I'm doing like a three-dimensional type. It's not actual three-dimensional, but an engraving, not an engraving. I don't want to say in this with a ball nose, where it's almost 2D, I guess you would say.
2.5D carving.
Yeah, 2.5D carving.
Yes.
Well, you want to do a roughing pass with a roughing bit and then bring it over and then put the ball nose so it doesn't take so long and it doesn't burn up your small ball nose bit. So, yeah, it could rough for an hour and then take 2 more hours with the ball nose to cut everything the rest of the way down. So you're looking at 3 to 4 hours easy on a project. I think the longest project I've ever done on my CNC has been about 3 hours.
I'm just curious, and I bet Dickson will be the winner on this one. What's the longest time that you have had a piece on your printer printing? I think mine was around 23 hours for one single.
Mine was about 10 or 11 hours.
Yeah, mine was about 4 days.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
But
I had one for 2 days, but not 4.
remember when you use Simplify, or that's more sophisticated, but Cura, you can take a print and you can change some parameters and turn a 4-hour print and turn it into a 2-hour print with the same results.
Yep.
By changing certain parameters in Cura.
Yeah, Aussie man, it depends on your size of your machine, whether it being hobby, but yeah, if you got a big enough machine, you could do 24 by 24 by 24.
Sure.
So,
Hey, Russ, here's a house being printed.
yeah, there you go.
It's a pretty nice looking house too.
Yeah, I saw that here a while back. Somebody posted it on Facebook as the video, and they showed it, and it's actually a 3D printer, and it, wet concrete, and off it went.
24 hours took to print it.
That's pretty cool. Look at that. And
think about third world applications for something like that.
Well, not only that, but did you see how it had the metal, corrugated metal that was laying in there, and then they were printing around it and everything, and the way they printed over it? That has to be structurally sound. I mean, really, I bet you that sucker would stand up to a hurricane, really, really well.
That's what they're doing. They're printing those in third world countries.
Yeah.
Awesome housing.
Yep. Ossiman's got another good question out there. If you get a power outage halfway through the print, can you continue on again from the same spot and when everything boots up again? Yeah, I think I can answer this, and you guys might have a little better refinement. You basically bring your head over to it, you measure where you left off, and then you take and go into I can't remember. 3D Hex, or anyway, there's a program that you can actually cut your piece, and you cut it at that height and you bring it down, and then basically you start printing again, and then you put them together. Now, I saw a video once, okay? Never done it, but that's kind of how I understood that it takes place. Somebody else?
If I ever get in a jam and I'm doing a 2-day print, and after 1 day the product, something went haywire, I'll go into take my product and bring it into Tinkercad, slice the other part, start it from there, and 3D print up and super glue it, and you can hide it. They'll never see it. But you can also do the power outage firmware. You could take the coding and put it in any 3D printer, and it'll continue where it left off. It'll even go up a ways and then turn it back on. It'll continue right where it left off. You might see a little dimple because if it didn't pick up in time when the power went on, it's obviously not going to pick up unless you got a UPS system on it or something. But when it stops right there and the power goes out, you're going to have that little heat, that little dimple sitting there from that head. But there is power recovery software out there that you can download and put it in your configuration H file. That's where they did that with that giant TiVo little monster, but they got a flaw in it. There's a flaw in their program that it's not compensating for when it starts out, and you write in Cura, you start your G code. You got to put a number in there that when you level that bed so it knows right where to stop at 3000s or 4000s. Well, they didn't account for that and put that in the software saying, hey, when this starts up, it starts out at 0.07 off my bed. So when the power goes up and that sits up 4 inches on your print, it goes up, it starts over, but it's off 0.07 or whatever number you have to put in there when you calibrate it.
Right.
I'll tell you one thing that happens, Dickson, with this software, because I've talked to some of these guys. The people that write the software often never have seen or touched the hardware.
Exactly.
They'll be in a different part of the world.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're getting the latest Marlin and they're throwing it in. This is a different machine. It's a duet board and all that. But they're getting the latest Marlin and they're just throwing it in these machines and shipping it out, because many times that's the first thing I do is I check the program out, and then I do all these calibrations and I calibrate the stepper motors and that. And there's flaws in the Marlin software.
Right. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions out in the chat, so I think we're going to call it quits for the night. I appreciate all y'all guys being out there. Dennis Goodson is now out there. Jimbo 5531287653009. Tom Spillane is out there. Live to Learn Dana. Aussie Man. Dan Inge from Dan Inge Woodworking. Good to see you out there. Jim Dockrell. He wasn't out there before. Jeff Robinson. Thank you for being out there. And like Steve Carmichael's been out there. Several people. Robert Crow. Robert Crow Mobile Home Wood Shop. Chris Nealon's been out there. Thank you guys for watching again tonight and being here every week like you usually are. I appreciate it. I will let y'all know real quick about next week. The first, by Wednesday, I will know what if we're gonna have a show or not on the 11th. I'll let y'all know by Wednesday of this week. So, and then remember the 18th of August. I don't know why I said July earlier. The 18th of August, and I'll get this out on Facebook, and also I might get it out on YouTube. But the 18th of August is what we're shooting the date for the Whirligig Awards, the announcement of the top 3, and then the random giveaway of the rest of the prizes to everybody else. We did pretty good this year. We had 11 entries, so I'm very happy about that. So we pretty well got, I think we got 10 prizes. So everybody should, I think when I say 11 entries, I think we have 10 entries, because the 11th one was actually my video to do the for the Whirligig Wars. So I think we got 10 actual entries and 10 prizes. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Everybody probably is going to end up walking away with something. So, I mean, I can't lie. I like to see 30 or 40 Whirligig Wars entries, but I'm happy. I'm a happy
Russ.
Yes.
Jimbo was saying that he wanted to see me print a Spock. And actually, Jimbo, I did. I printed it. See right there? See right in there? He's in there.
He's in there with James T. Kirk. And Dr. McCoy. And then there's Pura, and then there's Chekhov, and then there's
Zulu.
Folks, John just bailed out. He said he took a hard fall. Read the inside chat.
Oh, wow.
I didn't see that. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't.
It just now propped up.
Yeah,
Okay.
He's
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Hope you get well, John. Hey, I just did the same thing. I'm not. I'll talk about this in the thing afterwards. Give it a break, Al.
Hey, that was 3D printed.
Oh, look at that. What is that? Deep Space Nine?
Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, that's Deep Space Nine. I'm a Trekkie fan. I love Star Trek, all of them. Yep, I was also a Lost in Space fan.
Zero supports.
Yes.
Dr. Smith. Dr.
Dixon,
Smith is
just
right
a thought on the little rubber, the nice little tires.
Yes.
Yeah, that
some
would
of
be
these
pretty
guys that build the model cars or do some really fantastic scroll and bandsaw vehicles and tractors and all that. might be interested in those tires.
Well, it's not feasible because Ninja Flex is too costly.
Ah,
but what you could produce, you could 3D print your own RC car and then print your tires too.
Yes,
true.
yes,
yeah.
So
Well, I wasn't talking about. Well, yeah, RC cars they would work, but I was thinking more along the guys that were doing the scroll saw.
Yeah.
But even if you didn't use rubber, if you just used the harder plastics, they would work on the scroll saw vehicles. Some of the there's a guy called DM Idea that does some real good work on vehicles and
sure. This technology, you're right. This technology changed everything, especially my part-time gigs, the sign business, and that. I mean, I think it Steve with you could take all them images now and convert them and 3D print them. And the catch with this, I have my own CNC. I built my own laser. The catch with this 3D printing is I can turn this on at night, and in the morning, there you got your parts. That's what I like about it. That really changed the industry.
Yeah. Good point out there. Thank you, Jeff Robinson, for reminding me. Man, I swear sometimes my mind is about as big as a BB, and it would rattle. And if you put it in a boxcar on a freight train, it'd rattle around like a. So anyway, I guess that didn't make sense.
It made sense.
Jeff Robinson said, "Are you going to talk about the pallet contest?" And yes, I had that on my list. And by God, I didn't even read it off. So anyway, yes, the pallet contest is going right now. By the way, so pallet upcycle challenge that runs the whole month of August. There's a video over there on my YouTube channel telling you about it, and you can also go to my website, simplywoodencreations.com, and go to the challenges, drop down, and go to the 2018 pallet challenge. It's running all month. I've got some sponsors already came in that I've got to get up onto the website. They came in like Friday, I believe it was, and I've had a chance to get them up there. But basically, if those of you who do not know about the pallet challenge, you basically take 1 pallet or 100 pallets, however many you want, and make something out of that pallet material. It must be 90% of the pallet material that you took apart in your project. In other words, you can use screws, nails, hinges, braces, brackets, whatever you want. Like if you were to build like Shane last year built drawers, so he could have, drawer slides and stuff like that in there. It's just 90% of the project has to be made from the pallet wood. We want you to really get that in there. So, but that's the pallet challenge is running the whole month of August, and thank you for reminding me that, Jeff. I appreciate that. So,
hey Russ, does this count? Can I use this pallet? Will this count?
That's not wood. I'm sorry.
Well, I could get PLA that is wood, made from wood. They sell PLA that's infused with wood.
Dickson, I think what you have to do is you have to go get a pallet
and tear it apart.
Your filament, and then you can use it.
Yeah, you have to get a real pallet, because I want to see the real pallet, not your little play toy. And I want to see how you take it apart in the video, because people use different methods of taking one apart. And so it gives everybody an idea. Somebody that has never done one before might be watching the video and say, hey, I like the way he takes that pallet apart. I could do that. I might enter next year. So that needs to be in there also. Jeff says, I made a wingy sled to do the pallet contest. Yeah, I know what he's talking about. That's where he can make segmentations for different angles for he might be making. That's a good idea. I have an idea where he's going with this. So that's.
I thought it was like what Bart Simpson would do to people.
No.
Never mind.
Russ, can I share my screen real quick?
Sure.
Somebody was asking the question.
Don't have anything on there that's inappropriate.
Oh, just you. Hang on a minute. Let me get back over here. Somebody was asking about time to print stuff, and
well, it's time to go, so hurry up.
Yeah, I'm trying to hurry, guys.
This is called added value, folks.
Yeah, Okay, so you see my screen yet? It's got Kira up there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to print this model out because now Al's got me wanting to do a Star Trek thing. But if this was at the original scale, and I could type, if you look down here in the corner, it'll take 57 minutes to do that at original scale. But if I made it like 300% of that size, so it's a decent size, and you come down, and now it's going to take 9 hours and 47 minutes. So you see, it's just how big do you want it, and you know how much it's going to take.
And how long do you want to wait?
Yep. How long do you want to wait? Okay, I'm done. I thought this was
just a real quick question now. Since you got me started on something, I was thinking about one of the reasons I use a laptop on my CNC is due to the fact that if the power goes out, the laptop can go over to battery power. I can come in and find out where Mach 3 was at the code G code and make note of it so that I can start the G code back off at that time and reset the CNC to get it running again back to finish my project. But my point was on some of these projects where you're running like the 9 hours or something like that, would it not be a good idea to have like a backup system, battery backup for these projects, for the machine and everything, to keep the computers and everything running?
UPS system.
Yep. I don't see why not. Yeah.
Yep. UPS would be a good idea.
Now the one thing about running the CNC, the printer off of your laptop, is that if your laptop chokes a little bit, your print's going to screw up. So using an SD card is definitely the way to go with these things.
Yeah.
Because then it's in there and the program's on it.
No, I'm just referring to the laptop on my CNC. I know that you're using it doesn't use that. It uses the software built on board and the screen and everything on your but my point is having some kind of backup for the 3D printing machine, so that if the power went off, if it went off for 5 minutes, a backup would keep that thing running for those 5 minutes until it came back on.
Yep.
Yeah, a UPS is used mostly for, well, 2 or 3 things. One, to stabilize power maybe, so it's smoother. And it takes care of if you have the brownout situations, which is what happens the most. Those are the ones that kill stuff.
Right.
It keeps power going to it. And, of course, you get a storm and something comes in and, boom, the lights go out. Well, you can go back to your printer, and okay, shut things down gracefully.
Right.
Yeah, really bad power can screw up the heat too, which can be a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, it would. Yep.
They have power recovery that you can put in the firmware, so it'll continue on right where it left off after the power comes back on.
Right.
See, that's a new one on me.
I go that route.
I'm going to have to go research that.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to get out of here. I appreciate y'all all being out there in the chat. Thank you very much for Brenda, Jim, Katie, Al, Paul. Thank you very much, Steve Good, for being here tonight. I appreciate it. And also, Dickson Hoffman, thank you very much. Wealth of information. I appreciate you being here tonight and sharing that with us, and being so generous that you're going to give a lot of people, information and stuff afterwards. I appreciate that very much.
Was he giving printers away too, or no? No.
I thought I heard that.
Hey, that's what.
I'll tell you what. I would take this one here once I modify it, and I could donate it to Russ to give away. But now you can get such good ones. I don't know if it would be worth it.
Yeah.
They're cheap.
We'll talk about that at a later date.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that at a later date. But yeah, thank you very much. He gave out a wealth of information, and like I said, he's willing to share files with some of you, and also some, other stuff. So I appreciate that very much. I cannot say again how grateful I am to be a part of the community. How grateful I am to have all of y'all out there watching and listening the show, to have all these guys on the panel. A lot of these people I would have never met in a million years had I not started this show and got involved in this and got involved in YouTube, and it's a wonderful community. They come together when a lot of people are hurting and a lot of people need stuff. And so I'm just glad to be a part of it. And as long as I got y'all out there watching, we'll continue to do these shows. So I appreciate you very much. There's only one thing we've got left to do, and that is just give me sawdust, lots of sawdust all around me and everywhere. I like it flying all around my shop and even in my beard and hair. Good night, everybody. Thank you for
Bye, y'all.
God bless.
Good night, y'all.
Night, folks.
Come on, Chris. Say